Ladies and gentlemen, today we delve into a matter that touches every human being: relationships. Relationships are meant to be a source of growth, joy, and fulfillment. But we must understand that not every relationship is designed to build us up. Some relationships, though they may appear promising, can lead to destruction. The truth is, God warns us when we're heading in the wrong direction, especially when it comes to the people we allow into our lives. Let us examine 7 dangerous signs that God may be warning you about a relationship that could be harmful. Number 1 is just one sign: the lack of peace. The first and most important sign that God is warning you about a relationship is the absence of peace. Peace is not just an emotion. It is a confirmation from God that you are walking in alignment with His will. When God is leading you into something, there will be peace. It does not mean that everything will be perfect, nor does it mean that there will be no challenges. But there will be a deep, unshakable sense of assurance that this is right. When you lack that peace, when something in your spirit feels unsettled, it is not to be ignored. It is God speaking. And many times we dismiss it because we are too emotionally invested to pay attention. When you are in a relationship that God has not ordained, your spirit will be restless. You may not be able to explain it logically, but something deep within you will sense that something is off. You may try to ignore it, justify it, or even convince yourself that you are overthinking. But the truth is, when God is speaking, He does not bring confusion. He brings clarity. When peace is missing, it is a sign that God is trying to get your attention. Many people enter into relationships ignoring that initial warning, thinking that time will make things better, that love will fix it, that commitment will force peace to appear. But peace is not something you create. It is something that is either there or it isn't. God's peace is a guide. It protects you from making decisions that will lead to pain. When you lack peace in a relationship, you will find yourself constantly questioning, constantly feeling uneasy, constantly second-guessing your decisions. This is not how God intends for relationships to be. A relationship that is meant for you will have peace at its foundation. Even in difficult moments, even when challenges arise, there will be a sense of stability because God's presence is in it. But when you are forcing something that was never meant to be, your spirit will never settle. Think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where everything on the surface seemed fine, but something inside of you just didn't feel right? Maybe you felt anxious every time you were with that person. Or maybe you had a lingering sense of doubt that never really went away. That is not coincidence. That is God's way of saying, pay attention. Sometimes we ignore those feelings because we want the relationship so badly. We convince ourselves that we are just overreacting, that we are being too cautious, that we should just go with the flow. But going against the voice of God in your spirit will always lead to regret. The lack of peace is often accompanied by confusion. One day you feel certain, the next day you feel unsure. One moment you are happy, the next moment you feel heavy. Your emotions become a roller coaster. And instead of feeling secure, you feel unstable. God is not the author of confusion. When He is in something, there is clarity. Even when things are not perfect, even when you face difficulties, there is still a deep inner knowing that you are where you are supposed to be. But when that knowing is absent, when all you have is doubt, uncertainty, and a restless heart, you must take that as a warning. Many people pray and ask God for a sign, but the truth is, the absence of peace is already a sign. God speaks through peace, and He also speaks through its absence. When peace is missing, it means something is not right. It may not always be obvious in the beginning. Sometimes everything seems fine on the surface. But deep down, if there is a sense of discomfort that does not go away, it is time to stop and seek God's wisdom He is trying to warn you, trying to protect you from something you cannot see. Number two, it moves too quickly. In a relationship that moves too quickly is often a relationship that lacks a solid foundation. The speed of a relationship is not a sign of its strength. It is not the pace that determines the quality of a relationship, but the process. Anything that is built too fast is often built too weak. When something is rushed, it does not have time to be tested, examined, or proven. And when something has not been tested, you do not truly know what you have. Many people assume that the faster a relationship progresses, the more special it must be. They think that because things are moving quickly, it must be a sign that it is meant to be. But speed is not a sign of destiny. It is often a sign of danger. God's design for relationships is not hurried. He is a God of order, a God of process, a God of patience. When God is writing your story, He does not rush it. He does not push you into something you are not prepared for. He does not force you into a situation that you have not had time to evaluate. But when a relationship is moving too fast, it leaves no room for wisdom. It leaves no space for discernment. It does not allow you to step back and truly assess what is happening. When you are caught up in the rush of emotions, you can easily mistake excitement for peace. You can mistake passion for purpose. You can mistake the feeling of urgency for the leading of God. But God never rushes anything that is truly from Him. He leads you with wisdom, not pressure. He guides you with clarity, not confusion. A relationship that moves too quickly does not give time for true character to be revealed. In the beginning, everything seems perfect. Words are sweet, actions are impressive, and emotions are high. But time is the great revealer of truth. Time exposes what words cannot. Time reveals what emotions can hide. Time will show you who a person really is, not just who they present themselves to be. When you rush, you bypass the process of discovery. You commit before you understand. You trust before you verify. You invest before you know what you are investing in. And when you do that, you set yourself up for disappointment. Relationships that move too quickly often create a false sense of security. Everything feels right, so you assume it must be right. Everything seems to be falling into place, so you believe it must be destiny. But feelings are not facts. Just because something feels good in the moment does not mean it is good for your future. The enemy knows how to disguise destruction as destiny. He knows how to use speed to keep you from thinking. When you are moving fast, you do not take time to ask the right questions. You do not take time to seek counsel. You do not take time to pray. You just move. And when you move without wisdom, you walk blindly into a situation that may not be what it appears to be. God will never give you something that requires you to rush past wisdom. He will never push you into something that requires you to ignore His voice. He will never pressure you into something that does not align with His timing. The right relationship will unfold naturally, not forcefully. It will develop in a way that allows you to think, to pray, to discern, and to seek wise counsel. It will not require you to silence your doubts or override your wisdom. It will not demand that you ignore the process just to get to the outcome. Anything that is from God will stand the test of time. It will not need to be rushed. It will not need to be forced. It will not require you to move faster than wisdom allows. Number 3, your values are the foundation of who you are. Your values are the foundation of who you are. Your values are the foundation of who you are. They are not just preferences or opinions. They are the core beliefs that shape your decisions, guide your actions, and define your character. When you start bending those values to accommodate someone else, you are stepping into dangerous territory. A healthy relationship will challenge you to grow, but it will never require you to abandon the principles that define you. The moment you begin to sacrifice what you stand for to maintain a relationship, you are already losing yourself in the process. Compromise is not always obvious at first. It starts in small, seemingly insignificant ways. You ignore things that used to matter to you. You tolerate things you once said you never would. You justify behavior that you know is wrong. At first, it may feel like you are just being flexible, just making things work. But over time, you begin to realize that you are no longer the same person. The things you once valued no longer seem important, not because you changed, but because you allowed someone else's influence to override what you know is right. And when you look back, you wonder how you got there. It was not one big decision. It was a series of small compromises that led you away from your true self. Your values are given to you for protection. They are not just rules or restrictions. They are boundaries that keep you on the right path. When you step outside of those boundaries, you open yourself up to situations that will eventually lead to regret. A relationship that requires you to compromise your values is a relationship that is pulling you away from your true purpose. Love should never come at the cost of your integrity. True love will honor your convictions, not force you to betray them. When you find yourself making choices that go against what you believe simply to keep someone in your life, it is a clear sign that something is wrong. Many people convince themselves that if they just compromise a little, they will eventually regain control. They tell themselves that they will stand firm later, that they will set boundaries later, that they will return to their principles once the relationship is more stable. But the truth is, every time you compromise, you weaken your ability to stand. The more you give in, the harder it becomes to draw the line. And before you know it, you are no longer leading the relationship is leading you. And it is leading you in a direction that is not aligned with your true purpose. A relationship should never require you to become someone you are not. It should never pressure you to go against your beliefs, your morals, or your faith. If you find yourself in a position where you have to choose between keeping the relationship and keeping your integrity, that is not love. That is control. Love does not ask you to abandon yourself. Love calls you to be the best version of yourself. If someone truly values you, they will respect what you stand for. They will not pressure you to compromise your standards just to make them comfortable. They will not push you to do things that make you feel guilty, ashamed, or conflicted. When God places someone in your life, they will align with His purpose for you. They will not pull you away from your principles. They will strengthen them. They will encourage you to be who you were created to be, not push you to fit into a mold that is convenient for them. The right relationship will support your values, not weaken them. The wrong relationship will ask you to trade your identity for temporary acceptance. And no relationship is worth losing yourself for. Number 3. You feel drained, not uplifted. A relationship is meant to bring strength, encouragement, and support. It should be a place where you find peace, not a place where you feel constantly drained. When you are connected to the right person, you feel energized, inspired, and uplifted. But when you are connected to the wrong person, you feel exhausted, burdened, and depleted. There is a difference between a relationship that challenges you to grow and a relationship that drains the very life out of you. When you find yourself constantly tired, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it is a sign that something is out of order. Love should not drain you. It should empower you. A healthy relationship will give you the strength to keep moving forward, not make you feel like you're always carrying a heavy load. When you are in a draining relationship, you notice that your joy starts to fade. You wake up feeling heavy, as if you are carrying a weight that you cannot put down. Conversations that should bring life instead bring stress. Time together that should be refreshing feels like a responsibility rather than a blessing. Instead of looking forward to seeing that person, you feel a sense of obligation. like you are giving more than you are receiving. And over time, this begins to take a toll on your well-being. You were not designed to pour into something that is constantly taking from you without replenishing you in return. A relationship should be a place of mutual exchange, not one-sided exhaustion. There are people who drain you because they take and never give. They demand your time, your energy, and your attention, but they do not pour anything back into you. You find yourself always trying to fix, always trying to please, always trying to keep things together, and in the process, you begin to lose yourself. You were never meant to be the only one carrying the weight of a relationship. When love is real, it does not feel like a burden. It does not leave you feeling empty. It does not take everything from you without restoring you in return. A relationship should be a place where you are strengthened, not weakened. Some relationships drain you because they are built on unhealthy foundations. When there is constant conflict, constant insecurity, constant confusion, your spirit will begin to feel tired. You may not even realize how much the relationship is affecting you until you step back and notice the difference in your energy, your mood, and your overall sense of peace. When a relationship is right, there is a flow, a sense of ease, even in difficult times. But when it is wrong, you will feel like you are always struggling, always trying to make something work that is not meant to work. And the longer you stay in a relationship like this, the more exhausted you become. Draining relationships are not just a sign of emotional exhaustion. They are a sign of spiritual misalignment. When you are connected to the wrong person, your spirit will feel it before your mind fully understands it. You will feel distant from your purpose, disconnected from your peace, and overwhelmed by a sense of struggle. Relationships should be a source of strength, not a source of constant depletion. If you find yourself always feeling drained, always feeling like you are running on empty, it is a sign that something is out of balance. The right relationship will encourage you, uplift you, and push you toward your destiny. But the wrong relationship will make you feel like you are barely surviving. And anything that takes more from you than it gives to you is not a blessing, it is a burden. There's no accountability. Accountability is the foundation of any strong and lasting relationship. It is what keeps both individuals grounded, responsible, and committed to growth. When there is no accountability in a relationship, there is no standard. There is no structure, there is no foundation that ensures both people are walking in alignment with truth, integrity, and purpose. Without accountability, anything goes. Promises are easily broken. Boundaries are easily crossed. Wrong decisions are easily justified. And when a relationship lacks accountability, it becomes a breeding ground for dysfunction, dishonesty, and ultimately destruction. A relationship that lacks accountability will always lack stability. When people are not held responsible for their actions, they begin to operate in a way that serves their desires rather than the relationship itself. They do what they feel, not what is right. They make decisions based on emotions rather than principles. They say things they do not mean and do things they should not do because there is nothing holding them accountable. And when there is no accountability, there is no correction. When mistakes are made, they are ignored rather than addressed. When boundaries are crossed, there are no consequences. Over time, this creates a pattern of irresponsibility that weakens the foundation of the relationship. When a relationship is built on true accountability, both individuals understand that their actions affect more than just themselves. They recognize that love is not just about feelings, but about responsibility. They are willing to be corrected when they are wrong. They are open to wisdom, counsel, and guidance. They do not see accountability as an attack, but as protection. But when there is no accountability, selfishness thrives. One person does whatever they want, and the other person is left to deal with the consequences. There is no sense of duty, no sense of respect, and no regard for how actions impact the other person. Accountability is not just about holding the other person responsible. It is also about being responsible yourself. It is about being willing to be checked, willing to receive correction, willing to acknowledge when you have done something wrong. A person who refuses accountability is a person who refuses to grow. And if you are in a relationship with someone who does not take responsibility for their actions, you will always find yourself frustrated, disappointed, and carrying the weight of problems that should have been prevented. Many people ignore the warning signs of a lack of accountability because they do not want to face the truth. They excuse the behavior, they overlook the red flags, and they convince themselves that things will change over time. But accountability does not develop by itself. It is either present from the beginning or it is absent altogether. If someone cannot take responsibility for their actions now, they will not suddenly change in the future. If someone refuses to admit when they are wrong, refuses to listen to wise counsel, and refuses to be held to a standard, that is not a small issue. It is a major problem. God designed relationships to be a place of growth, refinement, and accountability. Two people should be sharpening each other, pushing each other toward their purpose, and holding each other to a standard of excellence. But when accountability is missing, the relationship will always drift toward disorder. There will be no trust, no consistency, no security. And a relationship without accountability will eventually lead to pain. If someone is unwilling to be accountable, it is a sign that they are not ready for a real relationship. Love requires responsibility. Commitment requires accountability. And without it, a relationship will never be what God intended it to be. Number 6, it's all about control, not partnership. A relationship is meant to be a partnership, a place where two individuals come together in unity, support, and shared purpose. But when control replaces partnership, the relationship becomes unhealthy. Control is not love. Control is not care. Control is about power, manipulation, and domination. It is about one person dictating the direction of the relationship while the other is expected to follow without question. When a relationship is built on control, there is no room for true connection, no space for freedom, and no foundation for mutual respect. Love cannot thrive where control exists because control suffocates individuality, choice, and growth. Control disguises itself in many ways. At first, it may seem like protection. It may appear as deep concern or strong leadership. But over time, you begin to realize that the control is not about love, it's about possession. A controlling person does not see the relationship as a partnership, but as ownership. They do not view you as an equal, but as someone to be managed, directed, and kept in check. They want to make all the decisions. They want to dictate how you spend your time, who you talk to, and what you do. They may even use guilt, anger, or silent treatment to get their way. And if you allow it to continue, you will slowly lose your voice, your independence. A true partnership is based on respect, not restriction. It allows both individuals to express themselves, to make choices, and to have opinions that are valued. But in a controlling relationship, one person's needs, desires, and thoughts always take priority over the others. You are expected to adjust, to submit, to sacrifice, while they remain unchanged. They do not compromise because they believe they are always right. They do not listen because they believe only their voice matters. And in time, you begin to shrink. You begin to silence your thoughts to avoid conflict. You begin to adjust your actions to keep the peace. And before you know it, you are no longer living as yourself. You are living as a version of yourself that pleases them. Control in a relationship often comes from insecurity. A person who feels the need to control another is often afraid of losing them. They do not trust love to be enough, so they try to force security through dominance. They believe that by keeping you dependent, by making you feel like you need them, they can prevent you from leaving. But love is not something that should be forced or manipulated. Love is not about making someone stay. It is about giving them the freedom to choose you every day. And when control enters a relationship, choice disappears. Fear replaces love. Obligation replaces joy. And what once felt like a connection now feels like a trap. God designed relationships to be built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and unconditional love. He never intended for one person to dominate the other. He never intended for relationships to be places of fear, restriction, or emotional bondage. When a relationship is built on true partnership, both individuals feel safe, valued, and free to be themselves. Decisions are made together. Voices are heard. Differences are respected. But when control takes over, the relationship becomes a prison. And no matter how much love you think is there, control will always destroy it in the end. If you find yourself in a relationship where control is mistaken for love, it is time to step back and reevaluate. Love does not seek to control, it seeks to empower. Love does not demand submission, it invites partnership. And any relationship that requires you to sacrifice your freedom, your identity, and your peace is not love at all. It is bondage. Number 7, there's no clear vision. A relationship without vision is like a ship without a destination. It drifts aimlessly, carried by the winds of emotions, circumstances, and momentary desires. Vision gives purpose. Vision gives direction. Vision establishes a foundation that allows a relationship to grow, thrive, and fulfill its intended purpose. Without vision, a relationship becomes a cycle of confusion, uncertainty, and frustration. Two people may be together, but they are not going anywhere. They may share time, but they do not share purpose. They may enjoy moments, but they do not build a future. And when there is no clear vision, the relationship eventually loses its meaning. Vision is what separates a purposeful relationship from a casual one. It is what defines why two people are together, what they are building, and where they are headed. But when a relationship lacks vision, there is no foundation to stand on. There are no shared goals, no common purpose, no deeper reason for the connection. And over time, this lack of vision leads to frustration, because without a clear direction, the relationship begins to feel stagnant. One person may be growing while the other remains the same. One person may desire progress while the other is content with routine. And eventually, the relationship becomes a burden rather than a blessing. A relationship without vision does not require intentionality. It does not require commitment to growth. It does not challenge either person to become better. It simply exists for the sake of existing. And because there is no shared vision, there is no accountability. When challenges arise, there is nothing anchoring the relationship. When disagreements come, there is nothing to hold both individuals together. Without vision, relationships become temporary. They are built on emotions rather than purpose, on feelings rather than foundation. And what is not built on a strong foundation will not stand. The absence of vision often leads to instability. Without a shared direction, both individuals may find themselves moving in different paths, wanting different things, and lacking the unity needed to sustain the relationship. One person may desire marriage while the other is content with a casual connection. One may seek a life of purpose while the other is comfortable in complacency. And as time passes, the gap between them grows wider, leading to frustration, disappointment, and eventually separation. When two people are not headed in the same direction, they cannot walk together for long. A clear vision is what brings clarity to a relationship. It removes confusion. It sets expectations. It establishes goals that both individuals work toward together. But when vision is absent, uncertainty takes its place. Conversations about the future become unclear. Decisions become difficult. Conflicts arise because there is no common ground. And before long, one or both individuals begin to feel lost in the relationship, unsure of where it is going or why it even exists. A relationship that lacks vision will always lead to disappointment because it does not have the structure to grow into something meaningful. God designed relationships to have purpose. He did not create relationship just for companionship. He created them to fulfill a greater plan. A relationship should align with destiny, not just desires. It should be a place where two people come together to build, to grow, and to fulfill a shared calling. But when there is no vision, the relationship becomes a distraction rather than a blessing. And anything that distracts you from your purpose is not meant to last. If a relationship does not have vision, it will eventually fall apart. Love alone is not enough to sustain a relationship. There must be direction, purpose, and intentionality. And if two people are not walking in the same direction, they are simply walking towards separation. Now, these signs are not just warnings. They are invitations to walk in wisdom, discernment, and truth. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. We must understand that God's purpose for our lives is greater than any relationship, and He will never lead us into something that will harm us. It's crucial to understand that when God warns you, He is not trying to withhold something good from you. He is trying to protect you from something bad. Listen to His voice, seek His guidance, and trust in His timing. Let's embrace the relationships that align with God's plan and let go of those that bring destruction. Remember, God's best for your life will never be found in a relationship that drags you away from His purpose. Embrace wisdom, seek peace, walk in love. May God guide you as you navigate the relationships in your life, and may you always trust in His perfect will. Amen.